Hi, and welcome to this week's Design Challenge. We are going to explore the opera Silver Birch, which was composed by Roxanna Panufnik and performed at Garsington just a few years ago. Now, this is a fantastic modern story where there are two brothers and they leave home to go off to fight in a war. And their story very much follows their aspirations and tracks their feelings about going to war, leaving home, and finding the courage to go to the battlefield. And explores the idea of the relationships with their family and what happens when they come home. Now, we've got a little clip here, I think, from the opera when we did the production. And this is a central part of the story, which is the battle scene.
Help me! Yes, yes, yes! Enemy combatant! 200 meters! Contact ground!
Gosh, lots going on in that scene. So I was the set and costume designer for this production. And this particular battle scene was one of the great challenges for me because the composer, Roxanna, had written Foley into the score. So she wanted it to be seen on stage and she wanted there to be this additional sound world created by Foley. Now, you're probably wondering, what on earth is Foley? And so this week I have got a very, very special guest who I'm very happy to see again after a few years. And this is Zoe. And Zoe is joining us from Lancing today, and that's not very far away from where I am. And Zoe is a Foley artist. Hi, Zoe.
Hello.
Can you tell us what Foley is?
Of course. So Foley is the reproduction of sound for film, TV, games, and theatre. So usually when something is filmed, you have microphones on the actors and a boom mic coming in over the top because you want to record their dialogue. And that means that you then don't get much of the sound that is going on in the scene. So in a process called post-production, which is after all of the filming's happened, everyone else has gone home, we work in a studio and recreate the sound effects. And that's with our feet, with props, and cloth movements. So we can make this big, beautiful soundscape sound real instead of it being on a set and with a wind machine or planes going over the head. So it's all very crystal clear.
Wow, that's amazing. And I guess what was a little bit different about doing it for Silver Birch was that you did it all live on stage as part of that battle scene action, which is a little bit different because you didn't have post-production and all those things to come after you'd done all your noises. And I think now we've got a little film of you guys in rehearsal on the set, which I think is really fascinating. And watch out, guys, you can see Zoe in this little film.
Lots of people didn't know what Foley was, me included. And Glenn, who heads up the team, he sort of oozes enthusiasm about Foley, making unbelievable sounds from gas canisters on a microphone sounding like a fighter jet and bolts thrown in a metal tub which sounds like an explosion.
I love that. That's brilliant. Everybody in the cast absolutely loved having you guys on the set making those noises all around them. And as the designer of that production, I put Zoe and all the team, the Foley team, into costume. So they just were part of that amazing battle scene that you saw the video of at the beginning of the session. So Zoe, that looks so cool. What is your favorite thing about being a Foley artist?
It would definitely be the ability to be creative every single day. Every day is completely different depending on what we're working on, and I get to have fun. And smash things about and be a big kid.
Well, that's great, because actually that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to be very creative now, particularly in lockdown, because we're just going to use the things that we have in our own homes. And so our design challenge this week, in this slightly different arrangement, is that we are going to now try and create a story using sound. So we're going to create a soundscape. And our story is going to loosely follow the story of Silver Birch. So the first thing we're going to ask Zoe to do is to create the sound of marching soldiers. And here is a production shot of our soldiers who don't have their feet off the ground in this particular photograph, but I promise you they were marching. And then once we've made the marching sound, we're going to create some battle sounds. And I think we've got a great image here. So here is our fantastic battle on stage. Now this is very theatrical, and as the designer I had to make some decisions as to how we were going to put this battle on stage. So you'll see here we've got some prop guns, and we worked really closely with our choreographer and with Karen, who directed it, to get the movement right so that all the characters, all these soldiers, were behaving as though they were in a real battle, albeit on stage. So we're going to do some battle sounds with Zoe. And then we're going to have rain that falls on the battlefield, like in this image. And this rain then calms and diffuses the battle. And the soldiers go home. And when they get home, they are greeted by their friends and family. And there is a wonderful street party. And here's another production shot from the end of the opera when our two brothers come home. So that's the little story we're going to create with Zoe. And how are we going to do this, Zoe?
So first off, we're starting with our marching. So I've just got a bag here. It can be any bag, your handbag, your school bag, your work bag. And just keep whatever's usually in there as well. You don't need to put anything special as long as it's not fragile. So I think I've just got some pens and keys in here. And for marching, you're going to hold it up here like this. Make sure you're wearing shoes and you're on a hard floor so you can hear your feet. So marching, we need to all be in time. Just like that. And if there's more than one of you in your household, then you can all join in together. As long as you're all marching in time, then you'll sound like a really big army. But if you're on your own, like I am, it's all good too.
That's so effective. I can't believe just those pens and whatever else you have in that bag help really create that amazing sound. So I'm going to, as Zoe takes us through this story, these sounds, I'm going to draw a little storyboard, or almost, you could call it like a visual score, so that we have marks on the paper that we can read from left to right, like reading a book, that will remind us which sound to make next. So first of all, I'm going to draw over here, right on the left, I'm going to draw myself some footprints like this. So this is my marching visual idea like this. So that will remind me that the very first noise I want to make is marching. So then the next thing in our soundscape is we're going to move onto the battlefield and we're going to make some battle type noises. What have you got for us, Zoe?
So when we get to the battle, we want to have our guns at the ready, as they did in the picture for the stage. So we're going to make the sound of a gun reloading and then it firing. So for the first sound, the reloading, just door handle. And that's not something that we usually use in the theatre when we're creating these sounds. I'm just sort of making things up as I go along at home. And obviously, if you think you've got something at home that could make the sound in a better way or a different way, that's what Foley is all about. It's what you have and what you think these things sound like. So we've reloaded, and then we're going to fire our gun. So I've got a saucepan and a wooden spoon. And I'm going to do this with the wooden spoon inside the pan, so it's hitting against one side of it, and it should sound like this.
That is so effective. I love that. Very inventive use of your wooden spoon. I'll have to try that out. So here on then our little storyboard or our visual score, I'm going to draw myself a door, because that will remind me that that's the next thing. But I'm also going to draw myself very crudely a kind of gun shape. That sort of looks like a gun to me. And then I'm going to draw myself a saucepan. There's my saucepan and my spoon. And I'm also just going to do a little arrow around my spoon so that that reminds me to twiddle that spoon in that very brilliant way to get that great sound effect. So then the next thing in our little story, in our sound world, is going to be what, Zoe?
An explosion.
Yeah.
So if you think about the sound of an explosion, whether you've seen it in a film or you've seen it done on stage, there's lots of sounds that go into that. It's not just one noise. We're just going to create one noise today, but if there's more than one of you, you can all be doing something different to make that explosion bigger. So today, I've just got a plastic bag, and we're going to fill it with air, like so, and big bang, just hit on the bottom of it.
That's really great. I can imagine if the microphone was really close, that would make a really fabulous explosion noise. So I'm going to draw myself an explosive little visual here. There we go. That will definitely remind me that the sound is an explosion. And then coming up next, what have we got, Zoe? What comes after our explosion in this soundscape?
So now we're going to get down to a little bit of gore. That's where the fun starts. We use multiple different things for different kinds of bones breaking. So I've got some small pasta here. So this is for the sound of a nose break. So be careful with this and don't swallow anything. Put the bits of pasta in your mouth, just in between your teeth, and like that. You can also do this with celery. So if you're twisting celery, you can do a leg break. Or if you've got some spaghetti, like I have here, you can twist that as well. And it flies everywhere. But check what you have in your cupboards and what's okay to use and things like that. So I've just used what I've got.
That is great. And hopefully everyone's been able to get pasta at the supermarkets. I know that has been in short supply. So I'm going to draw myself some little sort of macaroni noodles, and I'm going to do a kind of jagged break kind of mark there to remind myself that that is what we're going to do. And I'm also going to just draw very roughly a kind of nose shape. Brilliant. So then we got a couple of more sounds till we get to the end of our soundscape. And so now we have the calming rain that is going to come over the battlefield and diffuse this battle.
Yes, so we've got a few ways of doing this. The first way is just with your hands and yourself. So if you just pat on different parts of your body, and we'll go from light to heavy rain to then light, so that it's telling the story of the battlefield clearing and we're coming out into the sunshine. So you can do it. Like that. Or I've got a plastic bottle here that I've just put a little bit of rice in. Try and make sure your plastic bottle is dry before you put the rice in, or else you'll end up with it all stuck inside like I've just done. And you do the same thing of making it come in, up and out again. So
That's great. I love that. And often I think it's quite good to shut your eyes, because then you can focus on the sound rather than the object, because sometimes you'll probably think, well, that object doesn't relate to that sound at all. But actually, if you close your eyes and imagine the thing it's supposed to be, then actually your brain puts all that information together and then it sounds really effective.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I'm going to draw myself some dashes here. This is my heavy, heavy rain. And then heading towards the right hand end of my score or my storyboard here, it's going to just peter out to one last little raindrop. And then we get the final moment of our soundscape, which is Zoe.
So there are lots of sounds that people associate with celebration. So we're going to try out a few of them, just see what you like to do. So I've got an empty bottle here that I've just filled with some water, and we're going to pop the bottle, fill up the glasses, and have a little chink of them. So to do this, just got that. I'm going to wet my thumb. Spill it everywhere. So you can have that as a celebration. We can also have clapping. Or also, as we've been used to celebrating recently, we've still got our wooden spoon and our saucepans, and you can have a few more and just have a smash about.
Brilliant. Our saucepans are getting lots of use today and every Thursday at the moment. Great. So the last thing then I'm going to draw on my storyboard here is I'm going to draw a saucepan. I'm going to draw 2 wine glasses and some little sort of streamer stars for our celebration for the homecoming of our soldiers. So now we're going to try a world first. We're going to try and run this sequence of sounds all together. And Zoe, a quick question before we start. How would you normally know what sequence to do the sounds in?
So when we were on Silver Birch, we were being conducted. So we were timed with the music, as you spoke about before, with the Foley being in the score. So that was a very different way of working. Usually we'll watch the scene that we're about to do, and we'll select different aspects that we're going to follow and get those props ready, and either do it each sound individually or do one character's sounds if they're all quite similar.
Okay, so today we are going to attempt for Zoe to play this storyboard that I've drawn. So Zoe's going to get herself ready for the first sound, and we are going to take you through this sound world.
Okay, here we go.
So this is our soldiers marching.
Men marching.
Oh, ouch. That sounded painful. This is our rain calming the battlefield and our soldiers beginning to leave the battlefield and heading home.
And now time for the celebration.
Pop of the cork, slurp of wine.
Pots and pans time. there we have it, our celebration.
Brilliant. Fantastic, Zoe. Well done. And well done for reading my very scribbly drawing here. That is so great. I love how we just managed to create a whole story, a whole little narrative there, just with what you had in your own house. It's totally brilliant. Thank you so much, Zoe. It's been such a pleasure to see you.
It's been great, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And so I hope everybody is going to have loads of fun at home. Find whatever you can and make up a story for us. And we want to see and hear your creations that you can find, your Foley creations. And if we get those in, we will show them in the Monday motivation session that is next Monday. And it has just been totally brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time.